Hey everyone. Yeah, this is another lecture video, and this time it's going to be about like the basic Linux commands. And if you learn this one, you are basically know how to work with Linux in the first place. Yeah, I mean like you get to learn how to use the basic Linux command lines, and for best performance or like the best way of learning, you should try to do this by yourself as well. Like as you see that them in the slide, you should try them in your command line as well. And yeah, so let's get started. So the objective of this lecture video is going to be for you to learn basic Linux commands, learn about like paths and directories, learn about file permission, and learn about like basic ideas of what processes are. You don't have to be like, don't be afraid of like what any of this means. You will learn them eventually. I mean, that's the whole point of this lecture video. So let's get started. Okay, so Linux terminal is the command shell, and you will be running most of your commands in your Linux terminal. So whenever you are in your okay, so the first thing I'm going to assume here is that you have finished your setting up, like setting up your CentOS in your VirtualBox. You can also use SSH and work on your rlogin. It doesn't matter, just the first assignment is about setting up your virtual machine. So I hope you have done that, so that now you can actually follow whatever I'm going to show you. So a terminal displays a prompt and a cursor indicating it's waiting for the user input. So if you finished LO1, you will have a format like this. This one is the number of commands you have executed so far. This is the PID, and this is the name of your virtual machine. And it will say something like in, and this is the home directory. Okay. Whenever you see this symbol, it means it's your home directory. Okay. So whenever you open your command line interface, this is the interface you're going to see. Usually for Linux, you can go to your start button and then search for terminal, and it will give you this interface. Throughout this whole semester, like for this course, you will be working on your command line interface. In Windows, it's the PowerShell. In Mac OS, it's probably called terminal as well. And if you use SSH, you will be logged into your rlogin, and it will have a similar interface. Okay, the prompt itself is configurable. Precisely how depends on the particular type of shell you are using. There are different type of shells, and the one we will be using is Bash. The one that macOS uses is ZSH, and the one Windows uses is PowerShell. Okay, there are many other shells, and you can actually make them yourself. But for like the default one for Linux is usually the Bash shell. Okay, you can configure it by changing a environment variable called PS. That's also part of your assignment. So take a look at that. So what's running? To see whichever program is running right now, we use a command line command called PS. Okay, so whenever we write PS, it shows us this. And like what any of these mean. So this is the PID column, this is the TTY, this is like time, and this is the command that's being run. Okay, so one thing you have to understand in Linux is everything that is a command or CMD is actually a program. And when it's running, it's called a process. Okay, so after we open our like terminal and write PS, we see this. Okay, so what it means is that each is assigned, both of them are assigned an identifier called process ID or PID. Okay, so these commands are being ran as PID, like all of them has a unique PID. For example, this bash has the PID of 4112 and this ps command has the PID of 4804. Okay, and they have a TTY assigned to them. So TTY basically means which terminal they are being run on. Okay, so try to run PS again, and you will see that this PID changes. And that's because it's a new process that's being run and it was assigned a new PID. So you don't have to worry about this whole PS thing too much. Later on, if you take a course on OS, you will learn more about them. But for now, all you can understand, all you have to understand from this is whenever you run a command, it's going to create a process and that process is going to be assigned a unique PID. Okay, if you write PS with a -L, it's a L, not 1. Okay, you will have more more information than before. Like right now you can see that it has UID. UID basically means which user is being run by. It has a PID, it has a PPID, and PPID is basically means like who's parents PID. So whoever is running this current program, like for example PS will have the PPID of its parent, which in this case is 4112. And these are probably way too much to understand for now, so I'm going to ignore that, skip on that. So the thing you have to learn from this part is by using -L, we are using a switch. Okay. So all of the commands are going to have some sort of switch, and using the switch, you actually tell the command line interface that you want to do some additional stuff. For example, in this case, by writing PS, you were having a list of processes that are being run in this terminal, right? By using the switch -L, you are telling that I need more information about it. So whenever you look into the documentation of the commands, it will be specified like what sort of switches you can use for that specific command. So whenever you want to find out more about a terminal command line, you will be using the command man, which means manual. Okay, so for example, we were using PS, right? So if you write something like man PS, it will give you the whole documentation in your command line interface. Okay, so you can try running man and see what happens. So whenever you are confused about any command, like what does it do or anything about it, you just write man space that command and it will give you every information they have about it. It will also have the information about the switches you can use. The other way to know more is you just go to the Linux documentation project. They have the documentation about everything. This is the website, TLDP. Over here, you can actually find about like every single command line and command and what they mean, what like switches they have, what options they have, and everything. They also have the code repository as well. So if you ever feel like knowing how any of these commands work, you can actually go there. That is beyond the scope of this course or probably beyond undergrad itself. That's something you learn for your own. Okay, so now we are going to take a look at the file system basics. Okay, so if you are a Windows user, you are more used to the file system of drives. You probably have a C drive or something like that. If you are a Mac OS user, it's kind of similar to this whole thing we'll be learning right now. And if you're a Linux user, you already know how the file system works, but I have to teach you anyway, right? So if you are a Windows user, just forget about everything you know about the file system, okay? Windows is a completely different ecosystem. Linux is completely different. Linux follows the convention of Unix. Mac OS also does that, but for Windows, it's completely different. So if you're a Windows user, just forget everything you know about file systems, okay? Learn this from the scratch. So the file system is a set of data structures that organizes a collection of files. Files are grouped into directories, although directories themselves are files. Directories are like folders, okay? So here is a possible file system organization, okay? So remember, Linux system or Unix system, I'm going to refer to it as Unix system, but sometimes I might say Linux, so think of them as interchangeable, okay? So Unix system always starts from the root, okay? And the root is this one, okay? So the root has many different directories or subdirectories. For example, in this one, there is home, temp, etc. Okay. For home, the super directory is this root or its parent. Okay. For temp, the parent is also the root. For etc, the parent is also the root. The home can have a child. For example, over here I have Max, Sam, HLS. So Max, Sam, HLS are child of home, which is a subdirectory of it. Okay, and each subdirectory might have even more child. Like for example, in HLS, it has bin and notes. Okay, and this bin has two files, report and log. Okay, so Unix system uses a tree-like structure. You probably know about tree from your previous courses, but if you do not know about trees, you know the tree starts from a root and it will end with a leaf. Usually in Linux, the leaves are the files and the nodes, like internal nodes, are going to be directories, okay? So let's take a look at the file name convention. So each file and directory has a name, okay? The names are going to be case sensitive. Names within the same directory must be unique. You cannot have one name for two different files. That's kind of obvious. The use of characters other than letters, digits, underscores, and periods tend to cause extra work when you're using many commands. So usually you shouldn't have a file with a space in between, like you want to name a file like file space 1. You can have that, but if you are trying to run a command line like if you're trying to run a command in the command line, you have to put a escape character to specify that there is a space. So if you're using Linux, try not to have space or any other different type of symbols when you are naming a file. Just try to use letters, digits, underscore, and periods, okay? But even for the period, it actually works as an extension. So in this case, like in case of extensions, usually they are very important in terms of Windows systems, but in Linux, the extension doesn't actually matter. Okay, it's not mandatory, but it's a good practice. It helps the other programs to decide whether the file is of that specific extension. Um, so in this course, you are required to use extension in your files, but like it's not mandatory, but you are required to do that because when I will be running the autograder, it's going to check your files based on the extension you have given it. Okay, so some of the common extensions are .c, which means that it's a C file, like C source code. .h, it means it's a C language header file. .txt, it means it's a plain text. GZ, it means it's a gzip file. Tar file, it means it's a archive file created by using the command tar. And HTML, which means it's an HTML file. So these are some of the common ones. You will see many different ones later on, but usually in the assignments, you'll probably have to submit the C source codes or like TXT files. So make sure you specify the extension when you are about to submit the assignment, okay? So now we will be looking at the absolute path names. So absolute path names basically means like it starts from the root and ends wherever you want to specify it. For example, the root is always going to be this backslash, okay? So if you want to go to the path etc, it's going to be backslash etc. So it's going to basically concatenate all the nodes, okay? For example, if you want to come to TM, it's going to be backslash TMP, okay? So for example, you want to go to this log file. It's going to be slash, then home, then HLS, then bean, then log. So as you can see, slash home, slash HLS, slash bean, slash log. So in Windows, it uses the other slash, but in Linux and other Unix systems, it uses the backslash, okay? So the backslash is basically the, what is it called? Like it concatenates the file names or like the directory names, okay? So yeah, whenever you want to specify a specific file, you can just use the absolute path name, okay? Remember, the absolute path name always starts from the root and it adds all of the ones that you have to traverse. So whenever you open a terminal, you will be at your home directory. And with home directory, okay, so the home directory is basically where everything is. For example, in this structure, whenever you open a terminal, it starts from here. Well, not here. It starts from here if you are named someone Max. It will start from here if you are named someone Sam, or HLS if you named HLS. Okay, so that one is your home directory. So if you follow the instructions for your assignment and everything, your home directory will basically be home. Like it starts with slash, then home, backslash, then your PID. For example, my home directory is going to be backslash home backslash, because that's my PID. Okay, so this is going to be your home directory. And if you want to see which directory you are on, you use this command pwd. If you write pwd, it will show you where are you right now. You can give it a try, open a new terminal and try pwd and see where you are, okay? Another thing I want to mention over here is there is another way to specify that it's your home directory, which is this. So whenever you use this, it basically means backslash home backslash your PID. Okay, so you can use either this or this as your home directory. There is obviously another one which is more user friendly. It's this. If you use this, you can actually specify this. You can give it a try in your command line interface. Honestly, try it, okay? So there is another very important command which you will be probably using for the rest of the semester, which is ls. It's ls, okay? So ls basically means list. So it's going to list you all the files that's available in your current directory. For example, I am in this directory home bin and I entered ls, and these are the files that are available for me. And if I use the switch -l, it will give me all the information about these files. give it a try by yourself and you will see what it means. There is also a command called tree, which will give you a whole tree structure of your directory. Most of the time, tree is not installed in CentOS initially. You can install it, but it's not in the rlogin. Okay. We will be covering, I'll be covering the how to install packages in your CentOS. So don't worry about it for now. It's just showing that there is a command line interface for command that actually shows you the whole structure of your directory. Okay, so if you want to navigate through your directory, there is a command, and that is cd. Cd basically means change directory. Okay, so cd is kind of the equivalent of a double click. For example, you are in this directory and you write ls, you have these directories. Okay, so in CentOS, if a file name has a blue color on it, it basically means that it's a directory. And if it has red color on it, it means it's a special file. And if it has a black color, it means it's a normal file. It's not a it's not always, it's not universal. It's just like the default configuration. You can actually change it to however you want, but this is the default one. Okay, so you wrote ls, and you see that these are the folders or directories that is available for you currently. If you write cd co1, then it's going to go inside that specific directory. Okay, you can see the change over here if you have made the necessary changes based on your first assignment. So before you were in this directory 2505, now you are inside 2505 co1. So by running this cd co1, you are basically double clicking on the directory called co1. Now you are inside that. If you write ls again, you see that all these files are available in your directory called co1, that is inside 2505. Now you can actually go inside the directory code. You use cd code. So in a GUI perspective, you are basically double clicking on the code directory. Okay, inside there you write ls, and you see that all these codes are available for you. Okay, and another thing, if you just write cd and you do not write anything else and press enter, you will go back to your home directory. That's a nice thing to remember, because you will be going back to your home directory time to time, and just writing cd and pressing enter is good enough. So we can verify that by writing cd and press enter and write pwd, and it shows me that I'm back to my home directory. Okay, so you should be trying this by yourself as well. And another thing you should be trying, or you can give it a try, is after running this ls, you can also try running the pwd and see which directory you are on right now. Okay, give it a try. So another thing you have available is, you do not always have to use the absolute path. You can also use the relative paths. Okay, so relative path basically means that whichever folder you are, directory you are on right now, you can specify a file just by referring to it using a relative path. Okay, so for example, you are inside here. In your home directory, there is a directory called 2505. Inside that, there is co1, and inside that, there is a directory called alt. So you are on in here right now. Okay, and for example, you want to refer to this file. You can just write check answer.h, and it will still work. You can also write /check answer.h, and it will still work, because you're using a relative path. And if you want to specify a file that is outside of it, you should be using the dot dot. The dot dot basically means that it's going to check in its parents directory. Like, for example, you are over here, right? As we mentioned earlier. So if you use dot dot, it's going to start looking over here. So if you want to point to this file, you write dot dot and then you write the name of the file. Okay. So if you want to check whatever is inside in this code directory, you do dot dot. So it goes back here. Then you specify the name and then you specify the file name. That's how you do it. Okay. So dot basically means the current directory and dot dot means the parent of the current directory. It's a very useful tool and it's something you should be getting used to. Okay. And another thing that should help you a lot is whenever you are writing a file name, just press tab in your keyboard and it's going to fill up like auto-completed. Okay. If it doesn't auto-complete it, it usually means that that file is not available there. So that's one way for you to check whether the file you're looking for is there or not. So one thing about like absolute, like one difference between like many differences between absolute and relative paths are, remember always, a absolute path starts with a slash because you have to specify from the root. And by specifying that it starts with a slash, it means that you are referring to the root. Then you specify home, your PID, and for example, a directory called downloads. Okay. If it doesn't start with a slash or starts with a dot or dot dot, it basically means it's a relative path. Okay. So the convention of directory is there is a slash at the end. So it's something to know about. Like sometimes in the assignments, you will be you will be notified about like a directory or something, and you will see a slash at the end. So it basically means that it's being referred to a directory. That's something you should keep a lookout for. Okay. So now we are going to see how we are going to like make or remove a directory. So to make a directory, we use make-dir, mkdir. It basically means make directory. So if you write mkdir space a name, it's going to create a directory with that name. And if you use rmdir, it deletes that subdirectory. Okay. And if you write rm -rf, it deletes all the subdirectories and all of its content. It uses like it deletes them recursively, and it's very dangerous. So there is a common joke about Linux is if you want to delete everything in your PC, you just write something like rm -rf this. If you run this in your home directory, it's probably going to delete everything you have. And that's something you shouldn't be trying right now, okay, or ever. Just use that if you really are, not happy and you just want to delete everything, but probably not something you should be doing, okay? So whenever you see something like this, you shouldn't be doing that. And another dangerous one is rm -rf slash. So it will basically completely destroy your whole PC. Well, just the operating system, you have to reinstall the whole thing. Okay. So these are something you should not be doing. I mean, you can do it just for the heck of it, but remember, it's not salvageable. Okay. So you have been warned. So let's see how mkdir or rmdir work. So we are in this directory, and if I write ls, I have this one directory only. If I write mkdir temp and try ls again, I can see that the temp directory was created. And if we take a look at inside temp, we see that it didn't print anything. So it means that it doesn't have anything inside of it. So one thing to know from this particular command is, if you write ls and then specify the directory name, like in this case temp, it's going to go inside temp and print everything that it has. For example, if your temp directory had something like, test.txt, then over here it would have printed test.txt. Okay, you can give it a try just to see how it works. Okay, now if you write rmdir temp and write ls, you see that that file is removed. If you try ls to2, you're just taking a look inside of it, and you see that all of these are created. Like all of these are inside the directory called to2. And if you try to delete to2, it will say that the directory is not empty, and it will not be able to remove that. So if you want to remove a directory, you have to remove everything that's inside of it. So you have to remove them recursively, right? And that's when you use this command. And like I said before, it's not very safe. So be very careful about what you're going to remove and what you're not going to remove. So there is also another command line command, which is cp. Cp basically means copy. So how it works is, cp takes two parameters. Okay, the first one is what you are going to copy, and the second one is where you are going to copy. Okay, so these are basically addresses. You can use absolute address or relative address even in this case. Okay, so if you write cp source and destination, what it does is makes a copy of this file named this file in the same directory. If you write cp this file and dot dot, remember dot dot means it goes back to its parent, so it's going to create a copy of this file in the, with the same name in the parent directory. Okay, and if you write cp the file name and you write dot dot slash a new file name, it's going to create a copy of this file, and it will rename it to this and put it in the parent directory. Remember, it's a copy. Okay, it's basically like if you right click on a file, you click copy and then go somewhere else and right click again and click paste. This is what it's doing over here. So this is the command line interface way of doing it. Give it a try. Like try different ways of doing copies by yourself. You'll get a hang of it. Another command line command, I keep saying that, I'm really sorry, is mv. Mv basically means move files, but it also works as rename. Okay, so as before, we will be assuming that we have a file named this. If I write something like mv file name and I give it a new name, it's going to be renamed. I can also put it somewhere else. If I write mv this and this, it's going to move the file to a subdirectory of the parent named this. Okay, and if the subdirectory doesn't exist, it's going to rename this file to attic and put it there. Give this one a try and see what happens. Okay, you can also put it in a different place and rename it. So try these ones, try some version of your own just to see how it works. Okay, so mv is basically means the cut tool in your Windows. I honestly don't know what they call it in macOS. So if you want to take a look at like what your text file looks like inside, you use the command cat. So for example, if you have a if you have a text file, if you write cat and name of the text file, it's going to show the content inside of it. Okay, and again, cat takes a parameter of a location. So if you use a relative location or absolute location, it's going to show the content of that particular file. Okay, you can also specify more text files, like more files in general, and it will actually concatenate them and then show it to you. So try this, create a few files, for example, test1, test2, test3, and put some content inside and try cat test1, test2, test3 and see what it does. Okay, you can also write less. Less actually just shows you a bit of the file, not the whole thing. And if you press space or F to advance, you can press B to go back up, and you can press Q to quit it. Okay, give it a try. You will be seeing this more later on in this course. Like, I don't think right now you have a big file to take a look at, but yeah. There is also other command lines, like commands like head or tail. Head actually shows the beginning of the file. Tail actually shows the end of the file. Okay, try to look at the man page of head and tail, because they have other switches that you can make use to see more stuff. There is another command called WC, which means word count, and it works in a very different way. Again, take a look at the man page of it and you will see how to make use of WC. It's pretty interesting, honestly. But the main idea is it just like reads it reads the file and it will specify. I think it's in the well, it isn't in the slide. So the first thing it shows is the number of words it has. Then it will specify, honestly, I would say just take a look at the man page. It will explain you much better. But yeah, this is where I'm going to finish this lecture video. I hope you were actually following and trying out this command. In the next lecture video, I'm going to complete this lecture, okay? So yeah, see you on the next one.